everyone, welcome once again to Star Wars Discussions. I am Captain Logan, and joining me today are co-hosts Dan Torrey.
Hello, everyone.
And it's the amazing Steve Baxi. Beware the Steve Baxi.
Amazing and beware. Those are good words to compliment.
Well, yeah, but of course, you know, one of these is telling you to do a thing, and the other one's an adjective, you know. Today we're going to be talking about Path of the Jedi, the latest episode of Star Wars Rebels, and if you haven't watched a discussions show lately, oh, you know what, really quick, I apologize, really fast, I have to change my background, because everybody's going to be very confused, because it looks like we're talking about Gotham. Ready? Ready? Boom! There we go. Star Wars. Okay, so if you have not watched any of our discussion shows lately, we are recording a live show right now, and we have a live studio audience. Say hi, everybody. Everybody's saying hello in the comments, and we are going to be interacting with them a little bit. If you would like to participate in this in a future episode, you can join us on Sunday nights. We're going to start doing this at 8 p.m. Central Time, and you can join us for Primetime Crisis Live, where we'll be talking about all of the different shows that we watched during the week, and then of course we're posting them later in this format as well. We are going to also take questions from folks who can't be here, and all you have to do if you want to ask us anything or comment on anything is send us a question through Geekvolution.com at the contact page. And now that I have said something that I have said 15 times this evening, we're going to move right along and start with our opening statements for this evening. The format has changed a little bit, and we are putting 20 minutes on the clock. When the 20 minutes are done, that's it. We're out of time. So 20 minutes on the clock right now. We're going to start with some opening statements from Dan Torrey. Dan, what did you think about this one, and what was your best moment, worst moment?
I liked this one because it was basically the scene from Empire where Luke goes into the cave and sees the Darth Vader Force vision for Ezra and Kanan. Both of them had a lot of stuff to do dealing with their pasts and where they want to take their Jedi training in the future. I like the dynamic. I continue to like the dynamic between Kanan and Ezra a lot, in that they're both kind of wet behind the ears. They don't really know what they're doing. They're kind of trying to figure this whole thing out, and I think this was a great episode to sort of bring Yoda in some capacity. I thought having Frank Oz in the show was really cool. They got the guy who played Yoda in the original movies and in the prequels, obviously, to come in and do the voice like it did with James Earl Jones for that thing. It was really cool of them to get that guy to come in and do the voice work. I think this may have been one of the scariest appearances of the Inquisitor too. I thought he was really intimidating. All the stuff that he did, like getting to see him actually stab Kanan and things like that, was like, oh man, that's crazy.
Even though it wasn't really him.
Yeah, exactly. The Force visions are cool to see some of that stuff realized. So I thought all of that stuff was really good. We got some character work done with both of them. I'm not sure that one of the things that we said about the show when we were doing the discussions was, there's like little bits of stuff that I think could be, really cool stuff moving forward, but I don't necessarily think they went far enough with some of the stuff. Like Kanan talks a little bit about how he was tempted by the dark side too. There's like one line about it, and I would like to know more about that. I feel like with some of these characters, they could be interesting, but we don't know a whole lot about them other than like one line things that they've said. Besides Ezra, obviously, we've gotten to know the character a lot. So I don't know. I just want to get to know these people a little bit more. It would be my only criticism of the series as a whole, this episode specifically too, I suppose.
Dan, best moment, worst moment?
My best moment was every time Frank Oz was talking. That was great. Because I love Yoda. He's one of the best Star Wars characters. It was cool to see his voice. I kind of regretted not seeing him as a Force vision, though. I wondered why he was a disembodied voice and everyone else was a vision in the Force.
Really? That was actually a thing I kind of thought maybe I liked.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that. Yeah. Did you have a worst moment?
Nothing's particularly stuck out to me as being, like, terrible or anything.
Okay.
So I can't really think of anything that I was like, oh, that's bad. Well, yeah, I was overall pretty pleased with this one. I thought it was pretty good.
Steve, can we get an opening statement from you, sir?
Okay, yeah. So, I've been crazy about the show. I thought the first episode, the premiere, Spark of Rebellion, was amazing, and then after that, it's kind of dwindled.
Yeah.
But I think this one is where it really picked up. I loved everything with Ezra's journey. I love how they brought Yoda in. I'm not sure about the Force Ghost thing entirely. I think some of that's supposed to be continuations of where Yoda was at the end of Clone Wars, and he's not dead yet, so he can't be a ghost. But I'm not sure because I didn't finish that series because I didn't really enjoy it. But no, I thought everything with Ezra's character growth in this was really cool. I love the building of Kanan and Ezra's relationship. We are getting more and more hints with Kanan that he may have been tempted, or maybe he's not as good as he was, or maybe just that he never got past Padawan, never became a knight, because he still has that ponytail thing. So I wonder if there's something darker behind that. One of my problems was that everything that was going on with the Inquisitor, it was way too obvious that it was a dream. Yeah. And that's going to go ahead and be my worst moment of... The moment the Inquisitor shows up, you know this is a dream. And they play that almost like it's a reveal halfway through, and that's really irritating. Because you know there's no way it could possibly be him. It wouldn't make any sense. And so it kind of destroys the tension of it. But even so, I thought the character building stuff really worked. I loved, and this is my best moment, I loved when Ezra is trying to explain why he wants to be a Jedi. And so there's a very easy transition from I want power to I want to protect people. And they're making sure you understand that this is a really slippery slope. And you can talk endlessly about Jedi and Sith philosophies and where they meet and where they diverge and really whether or not the Jedi one is the better one. So getting that moment where Ezra is kind of full of rage and then goes into wanting to be a protector, but knowing that it's just a bridge too far from being angry, I thought all of that was fantastic. All in all, I thought it was a pretty good episode. I think it's the best we've gotten since that initial pilot.
Here's what I might have done. I might have had... This is just a suggestion. I don't want to rewrite the episode, but there's a moment where the fake Inquisitor says, "I assure you I am real," and I kept thinking, the show really wants me to think that, but I'm still not buying it, and then very quickly it was obvious that it wasn't. I think it would have been cool if we'd done kind of like a Perchance to Dream thing, you know, from like Batman animated series, and had kind of like a really elaborate fake explanation for everything that was going on, and then maybe I would have bought it more, or even if I didn't, it might have been fun to see the way Ezra's imagination worked in the Force vision, where it wouldn't it have been cool if we'd had some kind of an explanation for how he was there, it seems really convenient, and then it's like, oh, well, actually, here's this explanation, and it makes perfect sense that he found out, like maybe the Empire has all these listening posts everywhere, and they know where some of the other temples are, and they're trying to lure some of the Jedi to them. They could have come up with some kind of really cool way to make me wonder for a minute, but I never ever bought it. My favorite thing about this episode was Ezra and Kanan having to learn how much they need each other. It's almost a symbiotic relationship with the Padawan and teacher thing, where it's not just the student that needs the mentor, but it's also the mentor that learns something from the student, and I thought that was explored really well. I really liked that. I liked that Yoda felt like original series Yoda and not like the prequel Yoda. I know some people get irritated when I say that, but I just, I don't care for the prequels. I don't like how he was characterized there. I think he said a lot of things there that weren't really well thought out, and I didn't really know what he was talking about. And here, most stuff made sense again, although I did have a couple questions. I did have one question in particular about something he said. Let me see if I can find it in my notes here, where he says, do you sense or do you feel? And I'm wondering what the distinction is, and I'd like to explore that with you guys a little bit, because I wasn't sure immediately what that meant. There's always a thing in Star Wars with the Jedi with feeling is important and understanding your feelings is important. What is the difference between sensing a thing and feeling a thing? We should talk about that in a second, because I was wondering about it a little bit. But like I said, the whole the part where he goes through like a stream of consciousness, and he ultimately figures out what his actual motivations are and why he's doing what he's doing, I think is maybe the most real moment we've had for that character so far, because people's minds really do work that way. He goes almost through like the stages of grief in like 30 seconds. And I thought that was really cool. My best moment was Dan's. It was Yoda getting to hear him here. Like I said, I kind of like that we didn't see him, and I can't put my finger on why. I kind of like that he was sort of ominous. I wondered if there wasn't a little bit of, and I don't know if this is good, but I wondered if there wasn't maybe a little bit of a Luke doesn't know who he is in Empire, so we don't want too many people who haven't heard of him to know he's still alive. I wondered if maybe it was just a contrived way to make sure that nobody saw him, but I'm not sure. And yet I still kind of liked it. I don't know. I don't have a real good reason for that. But anyway, my worst moment was I didn't like there were places that I didn't like where the camera was placed. It's animated. I didn't like the point of view, especially in the lightsaber duel. Because it's all from Ezra's perspective, because it's not real and not really happening. So I thought that was false misdirection. I thought it was unfair misdirection. You can't put a camera there, because those aren't real people. It doesn't make any sense. The other thing was, hey Dan, we're still not gonna get the reveal about Ezra's parents? We're still not gonna get that? We know there are multiple people aboard the ship that know about that, and we still haven't gotten it yet. I didn't like how the last episode ended because of that. That really hurt that episode a lot, and now we're pretending like it didn't happen at all. I didn't care for that. So anyway, that's my opening statement. Let me open it back up to the floor, and let's go into quotes real quick, and then we'll talk about some other things. Did you guys have any quotes? This is not the most quotable show we're reviewing.
Whenever Yoda talked, it was quotable just because it's in his dialect, I suppose. Some of the things that he said were pretty cool.
Yeah.
If I'm going to say worst quote, the thing that you were discussing earlier about sensing and feeling, I have no idea what that means.
Oh, okay!
I use them interchangeably all the time.
It's not just me! Okay!
No, because, like, you can say, I sense a disturbance in the Force, and I feel a disturbance in the Force. They say those things all the time. Interchangeably, they mean the same thing. So I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know if it was like, I tried to give it the benefit of the doubt and tried to read it a little bit, and the more I did it, the more I went, I'm thinking about this too hard. I thought of things like, okay, is it, if you're doing one or the other, I'm not sure which, you're like not using your reason, you're just using your, like, I don't know, like it's just reactionary and that's bad for some reason. I don't know. I couldn't figure it out. Steve, do you have a read on that, or are we right about it?
No, I think you guys are right, because the show does stuff with weird Star Wars platitudes, and it examines them, and it does cool things like do or do not, there is no try, and everything and nothing, so they understand that. And then we get a line about sensing and feeling, and it's really arbitrary. It feels really like postmodern Jean Baudrillard kind of pseudo-philosophy where it doesn't really mean anything. So I'm not sure what Yoda even meant by that. And it's strange because it came in a monologue that was so well done otherwise.
But then at the end, it ends up still kind of, being about understanding your feelings and then being able to move on, and that you don't have self-control and you don't have confidence and assertiveness unless you get where you're coming from. So I feel like I'm not 100% sure that whoever wrote that line didn't think it meant a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's possible. I feel like he was looking for a different word. It shouldn't have been sensing and feeling. It should have been something like, I believe or I think and I'm feeling, or something like that.
Yeah.
Because there is a distinction between those two. I don't... Yeah.
Sorry. My favorite line was, dead guys are distracting. And I thought, and it occurred to me that if Yoda were to say that line, it would be distracting dead guys are. Which just is kind of...
Can we talk about Yoda for a little bit? Because I was having a discussion with some of the people in the comments about this.
Yes.
And the more that I think about the Yoda thing, I don't really think it makes too much sense. And Steve, did you say that you watched where Yoda was ended up being a Clone Wars? Does he go to Dagobah at the end of that show?
I don't think he goes to Dagobah. The whole thing
because that happens at the end of Revenge of the Sith. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah. He doesn't go to Dagobah. Everything he does in that show is he goes on this journey because he hears Qui-Gon's voice. And so he's trying to figure out how Jedi can communicate in the afterlife, and that's his personal journey in that episode.
Okay, so I was always under the impression in Empire, Vader is kind of the projection of all the things Luke fears about himself, and that's why he fights him. And he's seen Vader, and that's why he visualized all of his fears about himself as Darth Vader. How does Ezra know Yoda's voice and that consciousness is in his mind when everything else is a projection of his fear? I don't understand how Yoda talks to me.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, he doesn't know that it's Yoda, but you're right that he trusts that. But everything else, yeah, good point. I didn't think of that.
Why would he know? Like, why would he hear that advice in Yoda's voice? Because he's never interacted with him before. Like, that wouldn't be in his memory bank.
Well,
he wouldn't visualize the thing giving him advice as Yoda if he's never seen him before.
Would he have to though? Because we know it's the real Yoda.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was the real Yoda.
But I think because because Yoda talks to Kanan. So my assumption was that Yoda talking to Kanan was the way that they tell the audience that it's the real Yoda talking to Ezra.
Okay, but I thought Kanan was visualizing stuff in his mind possibly too, and Yoda actually trained him and was his master, so that's why he heard his voice.
I can see why you'd think that.
Kanan, he thinks he's hallucinating, he thinks it's a vision, but then he gets confirmation that it isn't. So.
Yeah, I'm almost positive that Yoda's...
I just wasn't sure about it.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
That tells us something about the episode, Dan, because I think Steve and I are right about it, but it might not have been explicit enough about it.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think it's sort of strange. I just wanted to see what you guys thought, because I was talking to people in the comments, and we were sort of confused about it too as to what it was saying. I mean, I suppose there's not a lot of Jedi now, so Yoda can kind of reach out and talk to them whenever they need guidance, I suppose.
Well, then I guess that opens up the plot hole of, if Yoda's is supposed to be in exile, then why is he even bother giving people advice?
I don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea. The assumption I got was that because he mentions that he didn't even know necessarily that they were out there, and I assume that's something about being in the temple. Just told him that. Goku 48071 says that Yoda does go to Dagobah in the Clone Wars, and he leaves and then goes somewhere else, but that he does actually go there.
Oh, okay.
Just you know, we should try to answer some questions and comments if there are any. A lot of people just talking amongst themselves about prior Star Wars stuff. A lot of things about Shakti and stuff. Let's see. Is there
stands around in the background in the prequels?
Yep, that's right. Johnny Torch, I couldn't understand why Yoda would contact Kanan in the first place, and Dan just made a similar point. Yeah, I don't know.
I think Kanan trained with Yoda, so maybe he reached out in the Force to contact him.
Or maybe he's just bored and he's got nothing better to do. I mean, if you really think about it, you know.
And that also begs the question, like, in the expanded universe, I mean, this isn't canon, so I guess, anymore.
Yeah.
But, the reason he goes to Dagobah is because there's a lot of dark side energy there, and I was under the assumption that dark side energy clouded Jedi's perception of the Force. They couldn't see into the future, or, contact over, large distances with the Force. But maybe that's not the case anymore, I don't know.
Can I also mention that we cannot get off that planet, and we keep talking about how we can't get off that planet, but it's the same place. I had it listed here, but I don't remember it right off the top of my head. I'm looking for it, but Dan, that planet, it's Lothal. We're always on frickin' Lothal, and would somebody explain this to me, why we can't go other places? Because we got to put a temple there that somehow we didn't know about, even though we've scoured this entire planet all the time. Okay, so it's a cartoon show. We don't have, standing sets we have to always go to because we can't afford to go anywhere else. Why can't we get away from that planet? It feels economical for no reason.
Yeah, I would like to see them go to some of the planets from the, EU that are kind of out of canon now, possibly, and confirm that they're in canon, or go to some of the locations from the movies, too. That would be really cool. But I mean, I guess it's definitely living up to the Wars title and not the Trek one, because they're not going anywhere.
That's true, at least, and I mean, that movie had a lot of money, and it's you called it Star Trek with no moniker, frickin' go somewhere. But anyway, the farthest we go is Rura Pente, and they cut the scene out. Anyway, so let's go ahead and do a trivia. We should have done it earlier, I forgot all about it. Did you guys have any trivia questions?
I have one.
Go ahead, Dan.
the big thing in this episode, which was actually one of the cooler parts of the episode for me too, was Ezra gets his lightsaber crystal.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is canon anymore. Maybe you only need one lightsaber crystal now. But before, there was two types of crystals. You had the crystal that gave your saber color, and then you could have one or two other crystals. And my question is, what were they called, and what was the purpose of them to go on the lightsaber? There would be 2 or 3 crystals instead of just one. Maybe you only need one now. I'm not sure.
Steve, did you have a question, sir?
I don't actually have one. I don't know all too much about Star Wars, so...
Okay, well, my question was, yeah, despite the fact that you went out and bought one of those lightsabers from the Inquisitor, you know what though? I think that's a ripoff because it looks really cool, but it should spin. I don't like that it doesn't spin.
Yeah, it's also really tiny for no reason.
It's really tiny. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
the blade like this long.
Why would you want like a 1/3 scale lightsaber? Anyway, my question is, what is what are those crystals called? They have a name. What are those crystals called? Well, we've only got like a minute left, so we're going to answer those questions for you very soon. But before we do that, Suda is disagreeing with me a little bit on the whole planet thing and says that well, that's Ezra's homeworld and that and all of that, but like I still don't feel like we have to be there all the time just because that's where he's from, right? Like.
Yeah, they're supposed to be jump-starting a rebellion, not hanging out in Ezra's homeworld to make them feel bad.
Well, and keeping in mind the fact that they've got light speed and they can get any place in the galaxy in about 6.5 seconds, if you really think about it, part of the reason Star Wars isn't about exploration is because you can go really fast. Like, you can get anywhere you want to in about the time that it takes to transport from one part of a ship to another part of a ship. So, in Star Trek.
Star Wars is a used space universe where it's been inhabited for a long time. Like, all of the... Outside of the galaxy, there's places to explore and unknown things, but that galaxy is thoroughly lived in.
And that sound means we are all out of time. Let's go ahead really quick and give the answers to our trivia questions, shall we? Dan, what was yours, sir?
I don't
know. I just don't remember. Dan's like, I don't know.
The answer to my question is focusing crystals, and what they do is... It's pretty self-explanatory. They focus the blade, and you can have your blade be rougher, like we saw in the Star Wars Episode 7 trailer with the guy with the crossguard lightsaber, how it's all like fuzzy and that kind of thing. A different focusing crystal produces a different quality of blade. So depending on what focusing crystal you put in your saber, the blade will look different.
Let me real quick apologize and say that the comment that we just answered was not from Suda. It was actually from Mass Sci-Fi Fan. He was like, "Hey, that was mine." Okay, sorry about that. I apologize. The answer to my question is Kyber crystals. They're called Kyber crystals. You learn something every day when you didn't know very much about Star Wars, and then you watch a show about Star Wars. So sometimes I like to come up with questions that are like, "Here's a thing I learned that I'll probably forget tomorrow," but hopefully I won't. Well, that is all the time we have for Star Wars discussions. I want to thank both Steve Baxi and Dan Torrey for joining me. Thanks for everybody who is watching live, our studio audience. Thanks very much, everybody, and we will see you again next week. I think. Do we have another episode, Dan? Pretty quick. Okay, cool. Well, we'll be back for more Star Wars discussions next week. I am Captain Logan, and this was Dan Torrey.
Hey.
Hey, I am beware the Steve Baxi.
Okay, see you everybody.
Thanks for watching, folks.